naked to be undisguised.
The Bare Naked Show?
The Bare Naked Show is a show that dares to shed light on soul trauma.
Experiences that are difficult to discuss, but necessary to promote healing. You have to touch it to heal it.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Bare Naked Show. I am your co-host, Dr. Simmons. I am a psychologist, humanitarian, and entrepreneur. It's so amazing to be here. And my co-host of this show is...
Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Jay Hurst. So excited and happy to be with you all once again. It is a beautiful day, and I'm excited. How about you, Doc?
I'm excited. I hope they are. We've got some amazing things planned, right? Today.
Absolutely.
We try so hard to put so much in a show, but this show we believe is absolutely necessary, and we wanted to kind of really just check in. So this is Check In with Yourself Part 2. And we had a really nice time in our last show, checking in with ourselves in terms of what's going on for us. And then we had some good feedback from that show. We thought it would be a good idea to actually do a follow-up post-election. So this is Check In with Yourself Part 2. And our theme is, post-election check-in. Jay?
Yes. We are definitely checking in. I think what we were planning, as Doc said, put a lot into, put so much content and information and just put so much into bringing you a quality show. And as we were having the conversation, we talked about, what we wanted to present, staying even in the construct of what this show is, identifying soul traumas, and we're checking in on ourselves. Last week, last time we were together, Doc gave us some great exercises. We talked about some of the things, some of the, external factors, things that could cause us stresses. And I think some of that was built around the election. Mm-hmm. Well, the election has happened, that particular part has been completed. And I think for a lot of people, there was a lot of celebration going on, sighs of relief. I think, Doc, you were there at the acceptance speech. That is so cool. So cool. What was that like?
Double maxed and keeping as much of a distance as I possibly could, but I certainly was there.
Double masked. I love it. Yes, because it's important. It's important. But yeah, so the election's done, and I think what we wanted to really focus on, what we're focusing on with the show, we want to focus on healing. And I'm going to shout out really quickly. This lipstick I'm wearing is called Healed. It's from a line called Prophetic Cosmetics. Really, really great product. Tracy Bell Cooper. But I thought it would be appropriate to wear Healed because we are talking about healing, right? And I think as we're moving forward, we want to look at how we can progress as a nation, as a people. I think one of the things we talked about, no more pointing fingers, and no more like this side versus that side, or you versus me, or us versus them, or left and right, and conservative, moderate, but really America. Now that this has happened, America coming to a place of where we have to find that common ground, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be quite honest, the last, for me personally, the last 4 years have been rough. I think it's just been very challenging, very tough, and it's been eye-opening. And it's very easy for me, as we were preparing for the show, I was saying to you, I got an opportunity to speak with some of my good friends, and some that I would even consider family, that didn't necessarily share the same views that I shared. And I remember how unsettling and unnerving that was. But what I would do every time I had these conversations was just go back and reflect on some of the things that they said and some of the things that they highlighted. And while we may not agree in terms of where we see the way that we see things, the way that we see life. We certainly both had a point, and trying to go back and integrate all of those ideas. It wasn't difficult, and it's still a process for me. But as I think about us as a nation, it really is ultimately about how do we bring about healing? How do we move on from here? Right. And we were saying how we're so divided. I mean, just look at the way in which we voted. We voted, very divisively, and all of those people on the other side, regardless of whichever side you are, can't be crazy. They can't just be like, what's wrong with you? I want to shake it out of you. But everyone's voting based on their conviction and things that they hold true to. And something that I know we were talking about is just the idea of belonging. I think that ultimately everyone wants to belong, and it's really hard for someone to feel as though they belong, and it's hard for them to feel as though they're taking steps towards healing when we're too busy, kind of demonizing each other. So ultimately what we want to be mindful of in terms of moving forward is really bringing ourselves to a place where we can understand that the humanity we share is so much more important and so much more prominent than those differences that we have, right?
Beautifully said, Doc. Absolutely. 100% agree. 100% agree. Um, and I honestly, you just wrapped that up so eloquently, because that's really where we are. Our humanity is integral for us, and I think that's one of the reasons or one of the ways we can really start, because we are human. At the end of the day, no matter what this shell looks like, right? We still, we have the organs, we bleed. We're humans.
Mm-hmm.
And our humanity should not be lost. We were talking about this, and one of the things, like you mentioned, having the conversation is reaching out to the other side, because for those who may have voted in a way that is not, that wasn't favorable to the election results, like you mentioned, the country has just been really divisive. So I'm just going to kind of put things out here, right? There have been, for whatever reasons, there's been a divide. There has really been a divide. There are some people who may have been with a particular party for that's kind of generations, and now decided after these past 4 years they had to make a different choice. And so understanding, kind of as we're moving forward, to really be mindful of that we need to be willing to hear and actively listen. I think sometimes we listen to answer, and instead we should just actively listen, and listen for whatever it is the other side is saying, because, as you said, our humanity is where we're appealing to one another at this point. We won't be able to progress if we're divided. They say united we stand, divided we fall, and it's really true. There's power in numbers, and if the numbers, we don't come together, we're not going to be able to progress and have such the progress, the fruition, and the greatness that we all pride ourselves in as citizens, or occupants of this space, these United States, if you will. So I think that's one of the things, that's something else that we can really be sensitive to. And even as we're talking about their fears and concerns, because that's real. For some people, when we were talking last week, we were talking about how some people, may feel like they were losing something. If a certain party, if President like Biden were to be elected president, some people had a mind of, I'd be losing, he's going to send all the jobs away. And that's a legitimate fear for them. So again, actively listening to what each other has to say is definitely going to be key in our progression forward in our healing.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree with you. And something I wanted to add is that I think that as a country, I still think that America is more of a centrist, kind of in somewhere in the middle. That's where most of us lie. And what we've been able to do, for some reason, is for a number of reasons, I can list a few, we don't have enough time, is we've been able to divide ourselves or put ourselves in such silos, right? Where it's like, you're either on the left or you're on the right, and not recognizing that even if you're left or right, there are variations, or there's a continuum on the left within the Democratic Party or on the right within the Republican Party. There's a continuum, and we've kind of made it seem as though each part is just radical in some way. So we're either talking about the radical left or the radical right, and not necessarily being able to figure out that at the end of the day, we probably have a lot of similarities, and we're looking at it from different angles, and most of us fall. So for one, fall somewhere in the middle, where I'm
Absolutely.
not too
We're the
extreme
moderates.
things and I'm not too extreme on other things, but really finding a middle ground. And I think that might be where we are able to find our healing. And it's in that centrist place, right? In that middle place where we can both be heard and still take something from each other. We don't want a country full of people that all think alike anyway, because we can't progress that way. But we
That's
certainly
right.
want a country filled with diverse thoughts, where ideas can be reciprocated and heard and put into action from both sides. So I think as a country, that's kind of where we want to find ourselves, somewhere in the middle, if possible.
I think that that's beautiful, and I think that's actually a great where we're going to kind of sum up, because we have something else we want to talk about. But there was a quote that I saw on social media. I think it may have been Instagram and Facebook, that someone that I follow shared a quote of Sanaa Lathan's, which we're going to see if we can't get that graphic up from that quote. This is the fun part about technology for me. I'm looking on my side now, guys. But basically, it talks about how we're respecting each other. And I really don't want to paraphrase it. I really just
Would you
want
like
to.
me to read it?
Do you have it, Doc?
Yeah,
Could you
I
read
do.
that for us, please? Awesome. That would be great.
So it basically said, be careful not to dehumanize people you disagree with. And it says, in our righteousness, we can easily become the very things we dislike in others. In our self-righteousness,
In our self-righteousness, yes.
become the very things we dislike in others. And this is a quote about Mark and Angel.
Yes. And I think that sums up where we are as a nation, as a people, where we can find, like you said, that middle ground, that common ground as we progress and as we move forward. And I think that's even applicable to what we're going to segue into next, which is something that is still here, y'all. It's still here.
Present.
It's very much still present, and that is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
Numbers have been increasing.
Yeah, so just I do think it's a good segue, right? One of the things for me that's a little bit frustrating with where we are right now as a society is how, speaking of politics, how we've politicized COVID-19. It just blows my mind, because I think that this is not a matter of right left. For those of us that work in the hospital, when we see individuals that are struggling with COVID-19, and those that didn't even make it, even as we speak right now, there's a friend of mine that is in the hospital right now with COVID-19. It doesn't care if you're far right, far left, middle, whatever you are. That COVID-19 is not a political issue, but we've done ourselves the disservice of politicizing it, right? And I think that as a result of that, there are some misconceptions out there, and maybe we're not necessarily able to truly engage and fight this virus as we ought to, because we're too busy trying to politicize it. We wanted to cover the whole issue of COVID-19 because we wanted to share some thoughts that we had. And one of the biggest thoughts for me is just the fact that we now have a huge spike,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we went up to 181,000, that's 1,000 new cases. right? We have over 11 million people, if I record correctly, that are now diagnosed with COVID-19, that have a COVID-19 diagnosis or been diagnosed. We have almost a quarter million, that's 250,000 people who have died from COVID-19. And the message here needs to be consistent.
I agree.
I think the message is simple: wear your mask, practice social distancing, be safe.
Yes.
And as
Yes.
simple as it sounds, Jay, it's a little bit more challenging now, I think, because of the holidays. So let's get into the holiday spin on that.
Absolutely. I think I even shared with that, and I think that's going to be something that people will be challenged with, because no one wants to. It's the holiday, like you said, and especially Thanksgiving. This is when everyone, you get together with your family.
Mhm.
For those who they've missed out on the cookouts, like, okay, I've been distancing, we've been staying in the house, this thing is still around, and I get it. I missed, and I said this the last time, I missed someone who was very, very, very dear to me. I wanted to physically be in their presence and celebrate with them, but
Mhm.
I had to be mindful
Yeah.
of the social distancing that we've been doing in my own household, because the reality is, when you walk out of the door,
Mhm.
you represent anyone that's in your household,
Mhm.
and whom whatever you're exposing yourself to is coming right back into your home. And
Yeah.
I can ill afford to take those type risks with my family. So even with getting together, a lot of the states, I was talking to someone in Maryland, they're in Prince George's County. The county has taken certain measures. A lot of states are starting to put shelter in place, more strict guidelines, I should say, into place, and asking families not to gather, or like, I think one state, I think here in North Carolina, it went from 25 back to 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's significant. But as you said, these numbers continue to rise. What was it in Texas and California?
Mhm.
As of the end of the week, they were both at 1 million cases.
Yes. Yep.
you know um so I think one of the things, when we, and like you said, is people not wanting to have mandates. And we this conversation came out, you know um
Mhm.
the conversation came about COVID-19, and how um there are mandates that we have, especially the mask mandate. And right now, I don't think a lot of states are not mandating it. It's like a strong suggestion. And how it's interesting how people are so strong and vehemently against, like, I don't want to wear a mask, like, throwing. I've actually seen someone have a fit, and sadly, I read an article, Doc,
Mhm.
yesterday. I read an article about a couple that beat up two women in a Cold Stone Creamery
Oh gosh.
because they said to them, the sign says no mask, no service. Please
Yeah.
put on a mask or leave the store.
Mhm.
They beat them, like the women were hospitalized.
Wow. Wow.
It blows my mind because, we're mandated to do other things. There are laws, right? There are mandates, and you brought this up, which, it's just like, that's so true.
Mhm.
Jury duty.
Mhm.
Are we skipping out on jury duty? You
Mhm.
know, for those of us who have work, and you have a specific dress code, certain things that you have to do. And even if right now, because of COVID, we're not physically in our office space, how many of us are coming into Zoom calls, with the proper attire, because this is what is still required. These are mandates.
Yeah.
So if we can do that, how much more, if not for yourself, for your fellow person,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I mean, at the hospital, I was saying to you, we have to wear our full PPEs. I can't be like, nope, I'm not wearing it because I don't believe we have to wear it. It's not for my safety, it's for the safety of other people too. If I want to be sick, that's up, whatever. But I would hope that I would want to keep myself safe, but also humanity safe as well. The people that's around me, we can't do fake nails. If you're a surgeon, you have to put your hair up and then put a a hairnet on top, you need to be clean because God forbid your eyelashes go into the person while you're doing surgery. There are just mandatory things. Seatbelts, that's mandatory. We don't, there's nothing like, well, you could wear it or you couldn't wear it. It's a mandatory action. You wear your seatbelt. If you don't wear your seatbelt and you get caught, you get a fine or a ticket.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. I saw a quote, Jay, and I thought it was so on point. It says, how privileged are you when wearing a mask is the biggest thing, the biggest oppression you've ever faced? And I thought that was so on point, like so on point.
I think it is. I think it is. I think it's very much on point. And for people, and I understand that there are people who have concerns as far as health concerns,
Oh,
who,
yeah.
they may feel like this is not something, that's something that they're not able to do. No one's
Mhm.
saying that, but I just feel that there's the majority, like looking at the statistics, 60% of people who are active COVID carriers are asymptomatic. So that means the majority of the people who have this
Mhm.
have no symptoms. They show no symptoms.
Mhm.
So it's even that much more important for those of us who don't have health issues to
Mhm.
really pay attention and look at what that looks like, and put the mask on.
Yeah.
Put the mask on. I
Mhm.
was watching something, and it was the governor of New Jersey.
Mhm.
His name is Phil Murphy, and I thought this was very interesting when Governor Phil Murphy said, the reporter asked him, he's like, people are uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. They're annoyed. We're tired of this. Like, people are tired of COVID. And I get it. Okay. I want to go to the beach. I want to go to New York. There are things that I want to do. I'm totally on board and I understand. However, his quote, his comment, and I'm going to quote this, was, it's really uncomfortable and annoying when you die, end quote.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That
it's
was on point.
influence.
I think his quote was definitely so profound. It put things into perspective.
It
And again,
does.
it's not to minimize. It really isn't to downplay. There are some people who really can't do the whole mask scene and all of that. But it's not a political issue. Please wear your mask. Let's try to knock this thing out. It is all of us, America, the world versus COVID-19, coronavirus, and that's kind of how we have to look at it and really take it seriously. We don't have enough time to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about how Africa was really doing, just blowing people's minds in terms of, how well they're doing. Because
Mm,
when this thing started, the assumption was that we were going to struggle a lot in Africa, and the
they did
entire
assume that.
continent of Africa only have 41,000 deaths. The entire continent, and I know
Can we
people like
just
to think
do
of
a
Africa.
alliteration to break that down? Yeah, because I think that will help for us
Yeah,
to really see that.
I was trying to see if I don't know if I have enough time, but I was trying to get a sense. So if you want to get a sense, because most people think of Africa as being a country, but the entire United States can fit into Africa. India, China, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, Eastern Europe, Portugal, Japan, and a second portion of India and a second piece of China can literally all fit into Africa. And that is huge. Okay.
It
So
is very.
maybe this is a conversation for another time for the sake of time, but just imagine. One of the biggest reasons why Africa is doing so well is because it was like, this is what you're doing and that's what we're going to do, and we had to do what we had to do. And now 41,000 deaths in a gigantic continent, as opposed to where we are right now, 250,000 deaths, which is so much. That's 250,000 people, souls lost, that would have been here today. Someone mentioned, talking about the emotional component of kind of being alone and all of that. Wow. That almost seems like a whole nother show in terms of COVID. What I would say
Yeah.
is, very quickly, it is very challenging without a doubt. Spending the holidays by yourself, being in place. We've noticed from a mental health perspective, there's increased anxiety, there's increased depression, there's increased alcoholism, there's increased drug use, because people, when you stay alone, you actually have to reflect on yourself. We busy ourselves in an effort to maybe repress some of those things that we're struggling with. But being alone at this time really forces you to think about your situation, where you are, what you've accomplished, and really certain traumas show up. So it is a really, really, really challenging time. What I would say to individuals is, just because you're alone physically in a space doesn't mean we can't reach out to people virtually. Okay. One of the
Yes,
things that my husband's really good at, and I'm trying to be more in line with him, is like he calls people virtually multiple times a day just to check on random people, an aunt, an uncle, a friend, just to have that connection with human beings. And so that's one
absolutely.
way to go about it. And of course, I will always say that if it's beyond just talking to your friends and family, please seek out a therapist. Just Google therapist near me. I am not a paid a sponsor of this, but I'll put it out there. Psychologytoday.com is a really great place to go. And if you
It
just go
is.
psychologytoday.com and search therapist near you, you put in your zip code or your city, it'll show up. And tell you all the people, and you can look at their profile, you can read it, you can see if they meet your preferences, and you pick a therapist to speak to help you through these difficult times, because without a doubt, these are trying times and it is very difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Doc. I think those are all great points. I'm glad that you were able to address that. And then also, I want to challenge us as people, especially people of faith, to really reach out to people. Let's take a moment for those of us who aren't alone, or even if you are alone, make that something that you do that will help you. Maybe reach out to someone else if we can't go outside. And there is, something that's going on emotionally. I think we're all dealing with some point in some aspect with COVID-19. As you said, that definitely gets into something a bit bigger. But I implore us all and I challenge us all to really take that time and start reaching out to someone else. Reach out
Mhm.
to people who, and it doesn't have to be an elder, it could be someone that's younger. Some of the college age students that decided to stay on campus. I really think that it's important to reach out and just, drop a note. Hey, how are you? Even if, at this point in time in technology, we have cell phones, we have prepaid phones, we definitely are all without excuse for not reaching out to other people at this point, to maybe just really check in. Because as we check in on ourselves, like you said, being by yourself makes you reflect on yourself. So when you have that self reflection, that allows you to see, like, okay, what can I do? Sometimes for me, it's like, hey, yo, are you being selfish? Checking on someone else. So
Yeah.
I really just wanted to put that out there to really encourage us all and challenge us all, even a little bit. Let's just reach out more. Let's use our platforms, send somebody a goofy TikTok.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, we certainly can do all of those wonderful things. Just for the sake of time, last time we wrapped up our sessions with our check-in with some autogenics exercises. Today, I wanted for us to try something new, and it will take about 30 seconds to 1 minute. And it's self-care, but this is self affirmations to kind of ground ourselves and make sure that we are feeding our body, our minds, and soul with some positivity that's needed at this time. So, Jay, if you could, for this again, could you be my audience? That would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And will just be repeating just a few self affirmations for the sake of time, okay? The first
Mhm.
thing is, I am calm,
I am calm.
I am confident,
I am confident.
I am enough,
I am enough.
I am safe,
I am safe.
I am blessed,
I am blessed.
I am at peace.
I am at peace.
I am worthy of love.
I am worthy of love.
There you have it. So, again, those
Um,
are just some positive self affirmations. And, we hope you enjoyed our show today. I know we
yeah.
jam packed a few things, but it was great having you all here. And again, leave a message, send us something on Messenger if you have any questions, thoughts. We'll be happy. Again, I'm Dr. Simmons, and my partner is.
I am Jay Hurst. Thank you all again so much for joining us. We love you. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
am Liberian and proud.
AP.